really running around and being a human being getting exercise, right?
Yeah.
It's good. You got to do that, or else you turn into a piece of furniture.
All right, firing up screen.
Okay.
I have my phone muted, so I don't do something stupid with that either. I am in your hands.
I love it. So, I mean, essentially, we're just going to be talking about you, your story, what led you to entrepreneurship, what you've been able to do, the impact you made there, and you know, the impact that you want to continue to make, not only in Atlanta, but, you know, across the nation here.
Are you going to be asking me questions, or am I just talking?
I'm going to ask you questions.
Excellent.
And then I'll let you talk. So, get you going. I didn't realize it, man. I've been doing some numbers on this show, and I just got a sales guy start working in this advertisement.
How are you going to monetize it?
That's what I'm working on with the sales guy. So he's gonna. I've identified about 250 businesses, and so he's gonna pick up and kind of go from there. So.
Are you focusing on hyper local, or are you going anywhere that it makes sense to go?
Anywhere it makes sense to go. So. Yeah, and.
Talk to Catherine about that. Have her put her brain on that.
Yeah. So,
she's no dummy.
Yeah. No, it's been good. I've been trying to flesh all this stuff out of my head. So, because I've wanted to get it for Carter Media to get it to at least three forms of revenue. So the PR, then with this radio, being able to monetize around that, because I just didn't realize we were pulling in the numbers, especially so quickly. So, and even if I had somebody full-time social media that was constantly marketing for the show.
Dontaye, the only thing that concerns me out of all of this is that it's all with you being not only important, but being indispensable. So if something happens to you, you are the business.
Yeah. Versus
building out, you've heard Catherine preach about the Dontaye Juniors.
Yeah.
Until you do that, you have to be in the middle of it.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, then I'll go into the intro.
Okay, go into the intro.
I mean, that's actually a good.
Dontaye Carter with Beyond the Brand right here on Hits 92.3, brought to you by Carter Media Group and TOV Digital Media. Again, I told you all that I was excited about the guest that we have on today. He is a gentleman that I've leaned on his experience. I've come running for advice, and he's never led me astray. He is he's a guy that really knows how to guide you when it comes to business. He understands the ins and outs. And for guys like me that didn't grow up understanding business, he's a gold mine. He is Alex Muñoz, and he is the founder of CSR. He is I feel like I don't just want to say business consultant, because I feel like you bring so much more value than that. So like, let's bring this in, and Alex, let's have you talk about what you do and what you bring to your clients.
Thanks for your kind words, and thanks for having me here today. It's good to be here, and it's good to see you in your element. We work with small business owners like yourself to help them achieve their dreams and to help them grow, and quite frankly, to help them become wealthy, because at least in our society today, wealth many times is a measure of success.
Yeah.
Not the only one, but it's definitely a measure of success.
Most definitely.
Gosh, Dontaye, we get real excited working with people like yourself who are experts. But to your point, they didn't go to school to learn how to do business. They could be a lawyer, they could be a PR and a media person like yourself, they could be a physician. anybody who is just really good at doing what they're doing and wants to then take it to the next level.
Yeah.
That's a good client for us.
Yeah. I mean, but you're so good at identifying just what they need to do to take it to that next level. And it's so funny because before I met you, everybody talked about how hard you were and how stiff you are and how much you're going to push. And but I mean, in this world, it's tough. Business is tough. And so if you don't surround yourself with the people that, and I'm not going to say push you, because I don't think you can ever push somebody beyond where they actually want to go. You know, they have to be willing to say, you know what, I need this push to get to the next level. And so when I see what you bring to the table, when I see, again, from me sitting here and being able to pick your brain and understand, okay, this is why Alex is so tough, because he understands that, hey, in 6 months to a year, if I don't reach a certain point, I'm not going to make it. In 2 years, if I don't reach a certain point, I'm not going to make it. In 3 years, and so forth. And so, I mean, what would you like to add to that?
Well, first of all, let's not forget that what we bring to the equation is not just Alex.
Yeah.
It's Alex and his team. You work with a very special person, Catherine Fuss, also, who has made a difference in you and what you're doing.
Oh, most definitely.
It's a pleasure to work with both of y'all. Having said that, you'll recall that when we first started working together, we focused on understanding what your purpose was, your company purpose, your personal purpose. Because if you don't have that at the core, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Your baby wasn't born yet. And I remember having conversations with you of, you need to be that person that's going to be the example. We didn't know if it was going to be a girl or a boy yet. But, you need to be her dad that she's going to be able to look to and know that he's going to be there. And he's going to be there not just economically. God's blessed you guys and you're in a great place. But what is it that you want her to learn? And what is it that you want her to then take and have be her purpose as well? Yeah. At CSR, one of our core values is caring.
Yeah.
C-A-R-I-N-G, which sounds really kind of soft and wimpy if you look at it a certain way. But it's a core value that we incorporated. It's not our first core value.
Yeah.
We have it third for a reason. And the reason why is that I can't care more about your business than you do.
That's true.
Because then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be dragging you forward to the end line. And that's not what we're about. But if you care, if you're willing to do what you need to do, we're going to be right there with you. And it's, to your point, it's not just business coaching or consulting. We'll roll up our sleeves, and if it's, hey, we need to craft your strategic plan, or if we need to do business coaching or whatever it is, we're going to get next to you. I like to tell, I do sports, not as much as I used to, but I do sports, and I like to use the image of, it's not just a trainer, it's somebody who's going to get down on the ground and do some push-ups with you as well. So there's a degree of being real with people that we try and do, and if that feels like pushing or if that feels tough, it's because you've told me that this is important for you. If it's not important for you anymore, then I need to know so I can go and spend that time and energy with somebody else.
Yeah. Let me have you come up just a little closer to the mic. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, so back to your point, I think so I use this example, right? So growing up, I was on my high school track team, and I remember my junior year in high school, we were running these 300-meter dashes, and my coach, he walked over to me and he said, Dontaye, I just don't feel like you gave everything on that last 300-meter dash. And he said, if you're tired, if you feel like your tank was empty when you crossed the finish line, head to the locker room, take a shower. But if you don't feel like it was empty, he said, look, I'm just telling you what I saw, but ultimately effort is between you and you. He said, but I'm just letting you know that if you felt like everything was emptied, go to the locker room. If not, I think you should line it up. But that's a decision between you and you. And I remember I started walking towards the locker room. And then for the fact that I could walk to the locker room let me know that I still had something in my tank.
That's right.
And so I lined back up and ran it. But it in life, that's one of the things that I come back to is, okay, how much effort did I give? Did I pour everything that I have into this? And so, that's why I don't think what you do is pushing. You know what I'm saying? I think you help us to see, look, have you emptied your tank? Have you poured everything? Because I can't pour all of my stuff into this. So have you poured everything in? And if you haven't, what happens? You know what I'm saying? And so,
let me tell you a little story. Because I know you like stories.
I love stories.
Yeah. One of the things that drives me, one of the things that's been a reason for why I do what I do, and it's something that's kind of come to me over the past few years, I guess as one gets older, right?
Yeah.
But my dad, so my last name is Muñoz, which is a Cuban last name. No, but I mean,
sorry.
No one says it right, I mean, my name is Juan Alejandro Muñoz, and here in the South, I'm Alex Muñoz, right?
Yeah.
So my dad was born and raised in Cuba. My mom too. My dad was was working in a factory in Cuba.
Wow.
And his boss, who is some American guy from the south of the United States, said to him, "Have you ever heard of a school called Georgia Tech?" And he said, "I think, you need to think about going there." And my dad was already in his mid to late 20s, so this was not some kid he was telling. But this man took an interest in my father. And I'm thinking, this was like in the early to mid 50s, so this guy probably had gone to school at Georgia Tech in the early 20th century, and he had gone to Cuba, and he was an American guy living it up down there. My dad went to Tech in Atlanta, and he was probably, if not the first, one of the first international co-op students.
Oh, wow.
He would go to school here in Atlanta 3 months, quarter. He would go back to Cuba, and he would work a quarter. There reached a point where if he would have gone back, Castro had taken over. If he would have gone back, they wouldn't have let him leave because they were experiencing all this brain drain. So he brought my mom over, and my brother and my sister and I were all born and raised here in the States. My dad ended up being a senior research engineer at Georgia Tech.
Wow.
Started his own business in 1976, started a factory, a minerals processing facility, all this kind of stuff, with the grand total of $19,000 from his retirement. He took his whole retirement and pension fund from Georgia Tech, and he put that into this business. Now, you might be thinking, oh, $19,000 in 1976, gosh, that must have been a whole lot more. Yeah, than today, but it was still a really stupid, naive move of my dad. My dad was a scientist. Yeah. My dad was and is brilliant in the lab, but my dad didn't know his rear from a hole in the ground. And, he struggled, and as my brother and I got older, we were able to help him, and he ended up okay. But he, just like my aunt, his sister was a doctor who also came over from Cuba, and she had to get credentialed in the state mental asylum in Milledgeville, which is what a lot of folks did when they came to this country. And she had her own pediatric practice in East Point for decades. They were both terrible business people. They had no business being in business. Yeah. But you got to do what you got to do, right?
It's true.
So coming full circle here to your original point, it's not pushing, but what drives me is engaging with people who really have something. They both had something. Yeah. She had a way of dealing with people wherever they were, and helping all these little kids. My dad had this great idea of taking hazardous waste from the steel making industry and converting it and treating it and recycling it into something that would be good for the environment. You have a way of being able to engage and figuring out people's stories and having 1 + 1 for them equal 76. Yeah. And that's what drives me. And so, as I'm sure you can identify, when it's something that is your passion, it's not work.
Yeah. I don't.
I know there's a lot there. Sorry.
Well, no. It is a lot, but I mean that's the reason why I wanted you to come on, because every time. So I feel like I've gotten to a place where Catherine and I we're on the same page. We're rolling. But it's always great whenever you're able to come down and sit in on our meetings, and you'll come in and, hey, have you guys thought about X, Y, and Z? And it's always good to have that experience. But what I think is so much more fascinating, is your story, is how you got here, is the place, and you figuring out, you know what, I've gone to one of the top technology schools in the nation. I was successful there. I was successful with all these different Fortune 500 companies that I worked with. And I believe that I can be successful on my own, but not just successful on my own. I can enrich the lives of the clients who decide to work with me. And I feel like that's what I've been able to get, is that enrichment and that fulfillment. And so the push isn't hard because it helps me to stay focused. It's all about, I think in the business world, you have to identify, okay, what's important right now. And I think sometimes we can get sidetracked by a cool idea,
Mm-hmm.
And those cool ideas, they lead you out of business and out of business quick. And so you have to have that team around you that helps to keep you focused. And so that's why, for me, I'm so appreciative to have you all. But that's why I thought, you know what? There's got to be more to Alex. He's got all this information and all of these things that he gives to us. And that's why I wanted you to come on the show. Just share your story, because I sit back and think, just even with your father, so would it be correct for me to say that you're a second-generation American? Or
it depends on how you define it, right?
Yeah.
I was born in this country,
Uh-huh.
but and I married a woman who she also, her parents were from Cuba, and she was born in this country. But our kids are all bilingual.
Yeah.
Now, that's because we thought it was important, our culture, those things were already, so we put effort against it.
Yeah.
But I'm either first or second generation.
Yeah.
It depends on how you define it.
But I sit back and think, right, and I love to look at the world in its context. And so to think about the hurdles that your father had to overcome, and then the hurdles you yourself had to overcome. And I think those are the parts that make your story so special. And so that's why I was bringing that up. Like, just talk about what it takes to get to that place.
I guess I would be remiss, and I don't mean to just give it a passing nod, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that if you're not straight with God, if you don't have an active relationship with Him, and you're trying to incorporate that into what you do,
Wow.
you're just going to go astray.
Yeah.
You're rootless at that point, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think this is the gospel hour or anything like that, but
it's your story, so
so
go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
well, look, where you spend time and effort is where you show that something is important for you. So, advisor too, and before I do any work, I'm going to spend time doing a meditation. I'm going to spend time trying to figure out from God, what is it that you want me to do today?
Yeah.
And because I have the attention span of, a flea, I always will write down what my intention and what my resolution is for the day, because that way I can pull it out. And for those of you out there, well, I don't know, maybe I'm on the camera right now. It's a little piece of paper, and I just write it on there, and that helps me have integrity with myself and with God throughout the day. And this is something I share with my wife, and I share with my kids as well, because we all have to have somebody to hold us accountable.
Yeah.
But how to keep going down that path and how to keep doing it. You start from the basics, and that to me is one of the basics. Mm-hmm. I got distracted. I forgot the rest of your question.
Well, let's go here. When did you realize that CSR was needed?
And this is a shout out to one of my favorite professors at Georgia Tech, Dr. Willie Belton. Dr. Belton, who I think is still there, is an econ professor.
Okay.
And I remember Dr. Belton telling me when I was an undergrad, Muñoz, if by the time you're 35 years old, if you're not known as an expert in something went wrong. Mm. So there should be situations or problems that people know when they encounter it, we need to call Alex because he's going to be the guy that fixes this. Mm. And as you can tell, that has stayed with me my entire life.
Yeah.
So, having that kind of focus and having that kind of understanding that, you're operating under a certain timeline. Time is the only resource that you can't recycle, right?
Yeah.
So I started the business in 2002.
Wow.
So I was 37 at that time. I'm a boyish 54 right now. And my wife, who is my wife and is my business partner and my everything, she was like, why don't you go and do this? Even if you decide you don't want to do it afterwards, if you don't get this out of you, you're always going to be wondering, what if?
Wow.
And so I jumped, and I didn't do it with some humongous business plan in place and with tons of money or whatever. Youth and stupidity is sometimes a great combination, If I was going to fail, I wanted to fail quickly.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I tell our clients today is, make lots of iterations. If you're going to make a mistake, fail quickly so then we can take that feedback and reincorporate it and find out what's new. So my first business venture in 2002 was a tamale making company. I didn't even know what tamales were. It was some Mexican guy that, his kids were in the same school that my kids were in, and he said, why don't we do this? And I said, yeah. And I was like, what are they? But it was great. I mean, within 90 days, we had put together this business. I had found us a USDA certified meat handling facility.
Wow.
I had gotten us a vacuum packing machine, the UPC codes. I had found somebody to do the artwork, and I had sold them into Kroger and Whole Foods.
Wow.
So, I realized about 4 or 5 months into it that if you're making between 13 to 15 cents on each tamale, you gotta sell a lot of tamales for this thing to make sense. We were doing about 10,000 a month, 10,000 tamales. So you can, kind of do the math on that. So though we were scaling, it was not a business that, was going to feed my family unless we wanted to eat tamales.
Yeah.
And so probably about 9 months into it, I providentially got a call from somebody who I'd established a relationship beforehand. They were doing, get this, they were doing a business where you go have a kid, you're in the hospital, and when they cut the cord, there's blood in that umbilical cord.
Yeah.
So if you take the blood that's in the umbilical cord and you store it, it's got a bunch of stem cells in it. Mm-hmm. And you can use that blood later on in life for whatever. So there's this whole cottage industry around that. And this guy wanted to get this business going on it. And so he asked me to get involved, and, I did my thing with him. He's a doctor. He's a great guy, but he was totally clueless on how to run this as a business.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first, foray into that, if you will.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if folks even realize it, but that stem cell industry, it's booming. It is. My wife's an OB, so I hear about it all day and night. Yeah. And then, I remembered seeing one of those checks and was like, wow.
Yeah.
So for everybody that stores, that's kind of...
It's a big deal. Yeah. And what's cool about I'm talking about this business that I was involved with 17 years ago, but I like it because it's, you're not pulling it out of anywhere that's going to be controversial or problematic. I mean, it's there, so there's no issues with that. But it was really just gravitating towards people who had a passion and, maybe just didn't have that business knowledge. And business knowledge is, it's who and what are you about?
Yeah.
And then going and finding employees, customers, referral partners, vendors that match that. Because when they match it, guess what? You're not going to have the kind of problems of trying to force something with people that you shouldn't be trying to do business with.
Yeah, it's true. It is very true. And I mean,
when
you were talking about the failing early, and it kind of just brought me back to that moment, because you start to realize that, hey, if this is all on me, kind of going back to the point you were making before the show is, all right, well, when you die, the business dies. And, when I sit back and I think about, legacy and what that looks like, and, my wife and I, we went to New Orleans last weekend for a wedding, and I went to, I can't remember the name, but I went to one of the cemeteries, and I kind of just stood out there, and my wife was looking at me like, bro, you are so weird. But I was just thinking about how many people died and took their dreams with them.
Yeah.
You know, and it just really impacted me. And I try to do that as frequently as possible, just to remind myself that, look, God has put something in you. And
He's given each of us
Yeah.
a giftedness. I mean, we're unique. And no matter how, quote unquote, insignificant you want to think about
yeah,
that person being, you know, each one of us has something that is different that no one else has, or there's a combination of things. And boy, if you can like figure that out and then find the people who are looking for that, that's what marketing is.
Yeah.
I mean, forget about all this kind of stuff that people are trying to sell you that are, oh, you know, I'm going to do your SEO and I'm going to build your website. Okay, yeah, all those are nice tools to have, but until you provide the content that's going to go into that, I mean, you're just paying lots of people money.
yeah. I mean, it just goes back to the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Like, what are you doing? Who do you want to impact? Why do you want to impact them? You know, I know we've all sat down and talked about the power of the why, and you know, it's so funny how many people just miss that. Just why? Why do you get up and do what you do every day? Well, you know, and it's funny because, you know, when I speak with attorneys, well, why are you doing this? Like, I spoke to one attorney, his story is so powerful, and I'm just like, man, you've got to get this out of you. You know, he was an All-American athlete, and he was traveling home for Christmas, and he was hit by a semi. Yeah, crazy story. And so he gets hit by a semi. His body is taking forever to recover. They put him on these on this medication. I guess you could say it's opioid, you know, a smaller dose. And so he gets hooked on all this stuff. And while he's hooked on it, he has a gun in his car.
Oh my God.
And he gets pulled over by the police. And so he gets arrested. He spends Thanksgiving Day behind bars. And it just so happened that was also the day that his daughter was born. And so, you know,
he missed his daughter's birth.
His first daughter's birth. He's sitting in the jail, and he's trying to figure out what happened, what went wrong. So he's thinking about the attorneys who failed him, for one. You know, they didn't do a good job of making sure that he got the help he needed after he was in that car accident with that semi. And then it's this incident where he can't get off of these painkillers that he's been on. So he's getting hooked on opioids. And I'm just sitting over here like, bro, so this is why you do what you do. And he's like, yeah. You know, I feel, he said, I look back and see how many people dropped the ball on me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to open up my own law firm to make sure nobody else gets the ball dropped on them. And I'm just like.
That's compelling.
You know what I'm saying?
That's compelling. And, you know, it's when you put that out there, you're going to find people that are looking for that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the job of people like you to help articulate that in such a way that, you know, it's not a scattershot kind of an effort. It's like a rifle instead of a shotgun, you know?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And that's a great example.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just so powerful. And so I just think ultimately we all have our whys, you know? And I just even think back to like my wife, and I don't know if I shared with you about, I think it was her fourth great grandfather. But so he was born a slave in this country, and he bought his freedom, he bought his wife's freedom, and then he bought the freedom of his children. And in my mind, I sit back, and when my father-in-law was sharing this story with me, I'm like, dude, you lying, you know, this isn't a true story. I don't know who does that. But then I Google it, and sure enough, you know, there's information about it on the web, and so this guy who was born a slave goes to work for Yale University as a janitor. And he's cleaning toilets, mopping floors. And as he's going to work, he's taking his oldest son with him. And he's like, Cortland, when you get old enough and you've got the right grades and you're putting in the right amount of effort, you can attend the school. We're talking about in the time where slavery still exists.
Talk about vision, right?
Yeah. So he gets there and Yale denies him access. He doesn't get in. Well, his father, who was a janitor at the school, had befriended a business owner who was also on the board at Yale, and said he just went and spoke to him, asked him for a favor, and he said, look, the business owner said, look, if your son's got the grades and he meets all the criteria, I'll ensure that he gets in. And so they looked at all of his information, and they said, wow, I mean, he's scoring above a majority of our students. So they give him a shot. So he becomes the first African-American accepted into an Ivy League medical school, right? Graduates. He's the second African-American in America to graduate with his medical degree. And then he goes on to open up his own practice. Had one of the most diverse practices at that time. Well, while Dr. Creed has his own practice, he receives a letter from Abraham Lincoln asking him to lead the medical unit for the Union soldiers. And I'm
oh wow! So this is before this.
Yeah.
I mean, Lincoln's still alive.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm hearing this story, and I'm listening to my father-in-law tell this story, and so he's leading this medical unit because none of the other white doctors, because there was so many black soldiers and because of segregation and everything, they weren't leading up this unit. So he comes in and he leads the unit, and I'm blown away by this. And like I said, I didn't even realize it till my father-in-law's telling me this, and then I Google it, and it's like all over the web.
They need to make a movie out of that.
Yeah, and so he receives these honors and everything from serving the Union soldiers during the Civil War, and then it's like you sit back and it's like I'm just thinking about how the one move of that one man deciding, you know what, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to buy my freedom. I mean, he had to reach beyond the. Think about it. He had to overthrow the physical effects of slavery, the mental effects of slavery. I mean, spiritually, I wonder what place he was in when he did this.
If he wouldn't have done that, I doubt that the woman that became your wife would be the woman that became your wife.
Yeah. And so, that's what I'm so fascinated by. And I think back, and my wife's brother, he owns his own practice down in Tampa, Florida. And I just sit back and I'm like, wow, it was just this one guy just deciding, you know what, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But I'm going to figure it out. Because I think as a slave, he wasn't making that much money. You know what I'm saying?
Well, isn't that kind of the definition of slavery?
Yeah.
You don't make money.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So to get to a place to have enough money to even negotiate.
Crazy. It's crazy. It's like somebody in jail.
Yeah.
That makes, what is it, 76 cents an hour or something like that. The focus and the drive to be able to get from point A to point B, it's off the charts.
Yeah.
I wish I had a story like that. That's a good story. That's a really good story. Look, what I can tell you is, boy, that's a hard story to follow up with. But what I can tell you about what we do is, if there's somebody who's got that locked up inside of them, we want to give them the opportunity to run, and run without. We have a guy now. He has a small medical practice.
Yeah.
And his family is from Indonesia. And he's really passionate about what he does, but he was like, yeah, because I'm trying to get QuickBooks figured out and this, and it's like, why the hell are you dealing with QuickBooks? You're an MD, you've got this special talent. Does this sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
Mr. Carter?
It does.
But, if we can find people like that and unleash them. We went in there, we sorted out all of his financial problems, and what we've got him now is, okay, you need to go to, he's also Catholic, as I am, is like, you're going to go, we're going to get you pulpit talks over the next, coming weeks, and you need to get up and start telling people about what you and your practice are about, because this is, what you're doing, he's in a real niche specialty. What you're doing, no one else is doing. People need to know about that.
It's true. But I wanted to share that story because I think for you, you've got a great understanding of building. You know what I'm saying? Building an infrastructure, building something that'll last.
Yeah.
And I think, as I listened to the story about your father, there's a lot that you learned from what he went through. And it's been able to help you to kind of come in and say, look, all right, Dontaye, you're good at this one thing. Don't touch anything else.
Right.
And I think without people like you out there who understand, okay, look, this is what you're good at. These are the pieces you need around you, though.
Yeah.
This is how I can help you, and this
Yeah.
is the services we provide. Like, it just, for me, again, it means so much, you know, and not only that, I think, you know, if we're being real and honest here, just being able to see another minority who's overcome a lot of obstacles, because there are a lot of obstacles in the way that you've been able to overcome and build something that is that's going to be life-changing for your children, for your grandchildren, for your great-great-grandchildren. And I think that's the thing that I get excited about, because in a sense, I'm not where you are, but you've kind of provided me that foreshadowing of hey, if you just continue to do the work, this is what you can be able to provide. I mean, I think about when you were telling me about your daughter's wedding, and I was just like, man, you know, if I could be at a place where I'm able to just take care of all these things. I know you're like, man, I felt like I was shelling out so much.
Right.
But, you know, just being able to afford that opportunity is powerful.
Dontaye, knowing why God has put us on this earth is central to any of this. You know, when we work with our clients, we've learned that we ignore the personal to the detriment of the business. That's why, you know, in addition to caring about you as a person, that's why we ask you the kind of things that we ask you.
Yeah.
Everything that, on a personal level, everything that I do, I'm doing with a mindset of, first, how is this fulfilling what my own individual best version of me for God is? How am I doing that? Because I gotta have some integrity and not, you know, be in a situation where I'm not practicing what I preach to my clients. But beyond that, it's how can I open doors for my kids?
Yeah.
How can I ensure that they've got not only the best, fairest chance, but you know, to the degree that it's not illegal, any unfair chance as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I want them to get those advantages that, to your point, I mean, you know, my name is Juan Alejandro Muñoz. My name's not Bob Smith or, you know, or Sam Jones. You know, we're first generation immigrants to this country. My mom came to this country. She had to leave her wedding dress, all of their wedding gifts. I mean, they got out of there happy to be able to get out of there. Which on the one hand kind of sucks, excuse my French, because you know, you're walking away from family wealth. And you're walking away, and I'm not saying that they're rich, but just stuff like, oh yeah, that's my granddad's house. And, you know, we're either going to sell it or somebody's going to move into it and it's an asset. Well, when you're starting over in a new country, you don't have that kind of stuff, you know? So you got to start over, and it really makes you grateful, and it really makes you focused on what's the next step here. But I love seeing your videos on LinkedIn of you and your daughter. And I love how you're creating memories for her, because then the man that she's going to want to marry is going to have to live up to you. Right?
Yeah. But I mean, but you did the same thing for your daughter. You know, you kind of set that bar. And I think, you know, as you start to understand what setting the bar looks like, you want to be able to set the infrastructure and build the infrastructure around what that bar looks like.
Yeah.
And I think the more that I became legacy focused and concerned about just what am I leaving behind, because I mean, we're all leaving something behind. It's either we're leaving debt or, or we're going to leave something that our kids can pick up and run with. And so, you know, it really just changed that train of thought, because, you know, I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, the only thing guaranteed to all of us is death, you know? And so it's kind of like, with your disappearance, what are you leaving behind? What can your kids roll with? So
that's a deep statement, and it's true. And, you know, if you don't have that kind of a focus on eternity, and if you're not starting your day off making sure that you're square with God, I mean, you don't know. That's the one thing that, you know, we don't know how long we have. And so you got to be sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing all the time, not just, you know, when you remember, but all the time. I know I should be talking more about my business. We love working with folks. we do a really good job with it. We have one of our clients that we've been working with now for 8 years. When we started working with him, he was around $8 million a year in sales. We've grown him to about $20 million.
Awesome.
And he's going to be walking away before the end of this year, God will, and he'll be walking away with $5 million in his pocket.
Wow.
That was something that we were real intentional on. We set up the infrastructure internally. We drove the hiring process. As he got big enough, it was, okay, now it's time to find you a bookkeeper. Now it's time to find you a controller. Now it's time to find you a CFO.
Yeah.
We have other of our clients that, I've identified where somebody was embezzling from one of our clients.
Oh, wow.
And I went in and I fired that person, and I worked with them we didn't send them to jail, but we said, you have a choice. You can go away quietly and you can pay back what you stole, or we can call the men in blue and have them come here and fill out a report, and you get to encounter that in your life.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I don't care what it is, but I want to work hard for our clients. I want to help them win, because when they win, we win.
Yeah. Wow. That's a whole lot that you said there in that last statement. It is, but I just think I think what's so special about what you all do is the fact that there's the focus on winning, but it's the winning together. It's
and the right way.
Yeah, and in the right way. And so again, that's what you all have been able to provide outside of just the experience, the knowledge, the love. It's all those components that you all have been able to bring to the table, which I don't think just impact me. That's the reason Wendy was just like, Dontaye, I think you need to go sit down and talk to Alex.
Wendy's great.
Because when you make when you change people's lives, people want to talk about it, and they want other people to be changed by it as well. So I just appreciate you just making the time to come down, talk about what you provide, to share your story. And man, that's why we have Beyond the Brand, really just talking about the impact. I'm fortunate enough to meet so many great individuals who have some powerful stories, but they've also achieved a lot of success. And when you're able to share the stories behind that success, I just think that's what inspires other people to say, you know what, let me give this a shot too, and see what I can do with God's help and with the help of my team. So,
well, keep doing what you're doing, because this is you doing what your giftedness from God, and this is you making an impact on other folks.
Yeah, you're a part of that impact. So I appreciate you for taking the time. Everybody, oh man, y'all might have to go back and listen to this again, because there were a lot of nuggets. But I want to thank Alex from coming down. You all, if you get a chance, Alex, let everybody know where they can find you, where they can kind of keep up with some of the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Our website is expertiseinresults.com. That's expertiseinresults.com. And you can sign up for our blog. You can contact me, contact other members of the team. We're there.
And they're there all the time, and results are what they get. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm Dontaye Carter with Beyond the Brand, right here on Hits 92.3.